name's Jeremy Fisher. I was born in Hamilton, Ontario. Grew up there till I was about 20 and then started traveling around. And over the next 10 years or so, I lived a lot of places. I lived in Victoria, I lived in Seattle, I lived in Vancouver, Montreal, and now I live in Ottawa.
Well, my name is Anna Horvath. I play solo under the name of Maribel. I grew up on a little farm outside of a town called Drumbo, which was pretty cool. It's nice to be on a farm, it's a good space, that kind of thing.
Alors, je viens de Montréal, je viens de la banlieue de Montréal, une ville qui s'appelle Ville-la-Salle, qui n'est plus une ville maintenant, qui a été incorporée à la ville de Montréal avec les fusions il y a une quinzaine d'années, donc je viens de Montréal, bref.
Well, Fred Penn is my name. I'm a 68-year-old man. I've been making music for most of my adult life professionally. In fact, this is my 43rd year of touring. So I've seen a lot of stuff. I've covered a lot of territory.
Well, I grew up in Cape Breton for 18 years, and then it was a great little village called Mabu. Lots of music, like every second house has a piano like this in it. It's full of music, and it was an unbelievable way to grow up as a child.
Well, I'm a city kid who's lived in the country for 10 years, who went to the Yukon and fell in love and was trying to read Thoreau, and then hitchhiked to Vancouver with the girl I met up there and bought a banjo and discovered that I loved not only writing songs with it, but singing them for people.
My name is Shady Edwards. I was born in Oshawa, Ontario, and lived there for many years. After high school, I moved to Kingston and went to school for music, and I was a trombone major. Played in a bunch of trombones-esque kind of bands, like a symphony, and the orchestra, they're boner kind of bands. You know what I mean. And played in the marching band and jazz bands and quartets and quintets. Eventually I moved to Winnipeg because my brother lived there, and I stayed because the rent was cheap. and I met a lot of great musicians here. I roll out my 20s, moving on through my 30s. I got 40s ahead of me on down the road. Gotta get there.
I guess as a kid, like listening to music in the car on the way to the cottage, like with my dad, putting tapes on and stuff like that, oldies and everything from stuff in the 50s to Neil Young, calypso music, like it's just everything, radio plays, like sort of this idea of the radio as being this channeling device or whatever to tap into. So I guess that was like my first introduction. But the first time that I was like, whoa, this is cool, was at Exhibition Stadium. It was Bonnie Raitt and Chris Isaak played a concert. I was 6 years old or something like that. And sitting there watching this happen, it all clicked.
But I started really choosing my own stuff probably when I was 11 or 12. I had one of those clock radios that's like a tape player and a radio and an alarm clock all in one. And I drew with pen on the side of the dial so I could figure out where all my favorite stations were. And I would spend hours in my room listening to the radio and writing in my diary. And every time a song came on that I loved, I would write in my diary, be like, oh my God, this song is playing right now. I love it so much. Wow, like this part is great. Yeah, so that was definitely formative for me.
Moi, j'ai commencé à écouter de la musique de façon, je dirais, plus sérieuse quand j'étais à l'école secondaire vers 14-15 ans. Et j'étais très solitaire dans ce temps-là. J'avais pas beaucoup d'amis et je restais dans... Comment dire, mon frère plus vieux achetait des 33 tours et puis moi-même, j'en achetais jamais en fait, mais comme lui, il les écoutait dans la maison continuellement, j'ai fini par développer un intérêt pour ça. Puis quand lui était pas là, j'ai fini par moi-même commencer à mettre les disques et à les écouter. Et puis de fil en aiguille, j'ai fini par passer des fois des soirées entières juste à être assis puis à écouter de la musique, ce que je fais plus jamais maintenant. Mais voilà, c'est comme ça que ça a commencé.
Oh, first love is true love.
I was surrounded by music when I was growing up. My parents were very much into the classical, opera music, orchestral stuff. My dad used to air conduct orchestras in the living room, and I remember him standing there with his eyes closed and, just conducting sound. My parents were also into the swing music of the era, the Tommy Dorsey, Benny Goodman, Charlie Christian, that world. So I, at a very young age, remember hearing the music around me and especially the variety of sound that was coming into my ears. It was not superficial to my existence. The music was always a critical part of my awareness in life. It was not just a backdrop to my world. The songs, every song that played, I seemed to zero in and try and figure out how the melody was working and making sure that I heard the harmony lines, and there was something in my brain that needed to be analytical about the music around me. And so I take what I do now as a performer for humans, not just children, but parents and grandparents. I take it very seriously. I try and make songs that have a bit of meaning to it, that I can deliver well, and that touch people in a way that I know that I've been touched by sound.
Became my bride. As I've wandered, I've often wondered how love and water flow.
I started playing guitar when I was about 9 or 10, and I hated it for a good long while because it's not fun when you don't know how to do it properly. And I was listening to, I was young, I was listening to loud, fast music, and there was this one CD I got, and I figured out how to play all the chords on it, and that just sort of led one thing to another, and then it's when I really learned to play the guitar. I don't think you can teach somebody an instrument, but when you become in tune with it and it becomes a part of you, when you can just sit down and hear something and figure out how to play it, then that's when music got real, It's when it gets real.
Oh, the briar and the rose still grow.
Were dulcimer and auto harp. Were very, very folk instruments. I played fiddle for a year when I was a kid, and then, I hit puberty and my dad gave me a guitar. I was like, you are a woman, here you go, you have a guitar. I got my first guitar and started writing instantly right away. And I think I had a collection of, by the time I was 14, I had written, 25 songs or something. It was kind of crazy.
I started playing music probably around age 6. I got put into piano lessons, and that lasted for a couple of years. I took a couple violin lessons in there somewhere, and then it was in grade 8 that I bought an electric guitar off of my sister's boyfriend at the time, who happened to be selling one. He was selling it for $100, and I had 50 to my name. So my sister lent me the other 50 because my parents were they're like, no, you quit piano, you quit clarinet, you quit violin. Now you want a guitar? I don't think so. And so I went behind their backs, bought this thing, and then maybe because of, their sort of unwillingness to go along with it, I thought, all right, I'll stick with this. Just
J'ai commencé à jouer de la musique pas beaucoup après ce dont je viens de parler. En fait, je disais tout à l'heure que j'étais très solitaire dans mon sous-sol à écouter de la musique et en fait, je souffrais de la solitude et je me suis dit, il faudrait que je me trouve une activité qui me mette en contact avec d'autres personnes, avec d'autres jeunes de mon âge. Et puis, j'ai pensé à jouer de la musique pour finir par intégrer un groupe puis jouer de la musique avec d'autres gens. Parce qu'à ce moment-là, ce que je faisais dans mes temps libres, c'était de l'informatique. J'avais un ordinateur et je travaillais là-dessus, mais c'est pas avec ça que tu te fais une vie sociale, c'est pas avec ça que tu te fais des amis, que tu rencontres des filles, Bon, je me suis dit, je vais jouer de la musique parce que j'en écoutais, puis j'aimais ça, et puis voilà. Puis à partir du moment où j'ai commencé à jouer de la musique, j'ai pas arrêté. Ça m'a happé.
Piano was my first instrument for sure, and I took lessons until I was 15. Then other things got in the way. I took vocal lessons for 2 years. I did guitar for a year, but I didn't really ever practice. It didn't go much anywhere. And around when I was 15, I started to write songs, which was mostly the influence of a really good friend of mine who was already doing her own songwriting, and I sort of watched her and listened to her and was like, wow, like I could do that too. I could take stuff from inside of me and create something else that someone else can soak up or be interested by, or something that's going to make someone have a feeling or a thought. So I guess my songwriting was born out of wanting to get a reaction out of other people.
I always tried to write from the start, but I definitely would get covers going just for campfires and sitting in the hallway in the high school and whatever, late night parties, that kind of thing. You sort of become the person that people pass a guitar to entertain them, and that was my first sort of moment of knowing that just because people say they want you to play music doesn't mean they want to listen to you.
Some days I can see a path straight out.
I started writing music when I was 15, I think. I mean, I'd had little piano jams and that sort of thing before then, but the first time I actually sat down was like, I want to write a song, like a pop song or a folk song or like, you know, one complete thing. It was definitely when I was 15. I think the first song I can remember, I don't know if it's really the first one, but it was some rambling thing with like 3 different sections and time signatures, and it was pretty standard fare for me back then, just heartbroken about some dude that I was in love with. And yeah, it was all over the place, but it was pretty cool. It was well received by the few friends that I showed it to.
The first song I wrote has no words. It was a 3-chord thing I came up with on my grandma's like family fun living room organ, you know, that had like a little drum machine in it, and you could make chords out of you could make the low notes play a chord, so you just had to hold down one note and it played 3 notes. And that was, you know, literally music to my ears, because it was like it did the thinking for you, you know. And I remember coming up with this thing, and what it was the progression. It's like it's 3 major chords, each is tone away from each other. It happens in a lot of rock songs, and I just did that over and over again with like the button for rock and roll beat and foxtrot beat like simultaneously pressed down. I copyright that. That's my first song. I don't know what it's called. Foxtrot rock and roll.
I'd be harder to pull into a fairy tale like this. I'll eat my words if you come hold me closer.
I think the first song I ever wrote was called 341, and it's kind of like starts off with a very standard 3-chord progression in ska style, like ska picking, and it's about going to the bar, because I probably was about 18 or 19, right when you're about to start going to bars, and then it kicks in with this punk rock, you know, really bubblegum punk rock verse and chorus, and then there's this big guitar solo in the middle, and it's you know it crescendos at the end with the drums, and it's a good picture of what I was doing at the time, being a little skate punk and in the suburbs in Southern Ontario.
I don't know why I thought of you. I don't know why I thought of you. Je sais pas, c'est un peu tout ça en même temps. Je prends la guitare, je raconte ma journée, je sais pas, j'essaie des affaires, puis oh, il y a un mot, il y a une phrase, il y a une expression, il y a quelque chose là qui donne une histoire, puis j'aime bien aussi conter des histoires avec des personnages ou m'inspirer de personnages, mais sinon je veux pas tomber dans ma petite émotion. J'essaie d'éviter ce piège-là.
Often I start out just sort of bitching and moaning about something while I'm playing the banjo, and I try to steer away from that. And then I'll just let little bits of it in if the lines are good. I mean, I try all kinds of different things, and some things work and some things don't. But basically I just try and play music until something comes along that's kind of undeniable to me.
Usually we have an idea, Nancy and I kind of write the lyrics, the theme of the song, and then we all kind of work together to create the music behind it, whether it's coming up with the beat, and then Steve adds a certain strange good
twist to it.
And then Gina usually brings melodies and backup vocal lines, and everybody kind of contributes So the song will start in one place and then it moves to a very different place because it's, I would say, a collaborative effort. But yeah.
Oh, every little river turns itself in to the sea. Maybe a different kind of winter is all a body needs. Maybe a different kind of winter is all a body needs. Maybe a different kind of winter is all a body needs. Maybe a different kind of winter is all a body needs.
Comme le sauveur portant sa croix vers la colline. Check le loser qui traîne son vieux Fender tout en ruine.
Part of my process is taking a concept through a journey, storytelling in some degree. There's a tune I wrote years ago called Collections. And it is a children's song, but it has a universality to it because everybody collects stuff. So I wanted to take this tune through a process. The chorus is 1 to 5, 6 to 10, collect your thoughts and start again. Okay, there you go. The first verse starts with your most basic collections. Rocks and shells and bottle caps, a ball of foil or string. Didn't cost a penny, but I felt just like a king. Okay, so little things, anything around you gather that. Rocks, shells, bottle, you know that kids, that's part of every human being, remembering that. Well, what's the next phase of collections? Stamps, coins, stickers, stories, poems, songs that encourage your imagination to grow. So there's from this one to this one, and I was thinking, what would be the next collection? Where would that go? I can't show you the collection that means the most to me because it's hidden deep inside where nobody can see. It comes from those who care for you. This collection has its start in the memories and the feelings and the pictures in your heart. So that's a hit, and that clearly is where I wanted to go. So many of my songs have that kind of movement to it, where you start with the seed, you water it, it grows into this beautiful flower, and then you take it into an ethereal world or somewhere else that really puts the cap on it and hits the heart. That's part of the process, is to, for me anyway, is to go so deeply into it that it'll draw tears from me and from an audience as well. I don't want people to be crying, but I want them to feel that sensitivity.
Musicien, quelle vie de merde, Dieu vous en garde.
Everybody says this about songwriting, but it's kind of therapy, right? It's like you got some big emotions and you need to get them out. And I mean, you can sing or you can dance or whatever, but when you're actually like creating something, I feel like that's a really great way to process what's going on with you. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's what it does for me, honestly. And
And it's fun because I think that my music's kind of weird and I like am enjoying where it's going and I don't fully feel like I'm in control of that. Like I can't just decide like I want to do this in this style. Sometimes I go see a band play and I'll be like, oh, I love their style so much. I'm gonna start writing songs in that style. And then like that's not really an option. Just whatever comes out is what comes out. So.
Lost in the background, blend in, then creep into the night. Pull the anchors in, drift out to sea, look to the lighthouse, then come back to me.
I think anything new that happens to you inspires you, right? Like every time you have a brand new experience, like touring is a perfect example. Like I think when we got home from tour last time, we wrote shit tons of songs. Like it was just it's kind of the way it goes. Yeah, like the idea your brain can create something out of nothing, like pretty much, is like the most amazing thing I think I've ever realized. Like that's crazy. Like to think that you can just make stuff. Obviously, you're influenced by a lot of things, but you made that. Like your brain created this, and I think that's an amazing thing. That's inspiration right there. Like.
When I'm really struggling, you know, with inspiration or like I need an idea and then it takes forever, but when it finally comes and it's successful, then it's just like, yes, that's awesome. That is exactly what I've been looking for and what I wanted to say.
Well, yeah, sometimes you've had those nights when you just come in and you're like, I had the best night of my life. I wrote the best song last night. And just like and then other times you're like, I'm trying so hard with this song and nothing's coming. And you're like, okay, well, let's maybe take a step back and try to like maybe rework it or come up with a new source of inspiration. And so, yeah, so I think when the inspiration's there, it just really, it almost just kind of falls out.
Inspiration feels a lot like a really good coffee buzz to me. It's like, you know, I can feel those chemicals firing in my brain and I just like, you know, it's like taking it back to the summer analogy, you know, when you're a kid and you wake up, it's like the first day of summer vacation and you just like, as soon as you get out of that fog of sleep, you're like, oh my, I don't have any homework, I don't have any obligations, I don't even have a job. I just get to do whatever I want. That's kind of the feeling, which is I think why we chase it, you know? It feels like it's like a high. It's like a natural high.
I'm leaving today. feet are tired and my brain is warm.
I live in the East End of Toronto. Work a retail job, try to pay the bills. I come here and with my bandmates and we write and record music, and that's kind of where I feel like I live. I feel like I live here more than anywhere else in the city. And my job, here in my job.
We spend a lot of time booking and promoting and keeping up with emails and phone calls, and way more time than we would like to.
Yeah.
But then we get to go out on tour for, like we did a 45-date tour of Western Canada earlier this year, and then that kind of feels like a vacation, actually.
Yeah.
And getting to just, it all amounts to something that feels really special.
My life carries me to, well, certainly coast to coast in performance, and then on vacation time I'm building holidays into my life and world. So several times over the course of a year, we'll go to either California or excursions to Cuba or who knows where, or Italy. Last summer went to Italy for 3 weeks, and so I work to travel now. I work to enjoy life.
Yeah, we live pretty simple lives. I mean, we live next door to each other, which works really well for us. We love it. We work very close to where we live. We have, my son goes to school right in this neighborhood. It's just this simple life. We cycle around on our bikes. We sit by the river. We stay close to home, and it's wonderful. I mean, I think of that almost every day when I wake up. I wake up in this house and it's like, I love our lives. I love it.
I live on a hobby farm. We have a river out back. In the summer we have 3 pigs and 100 chickens, and we always have a big garden.
I've had 2 long months since I've been home. My feet are tired and my brain is warm. My empty arms, they long for you. My home.
We all live in Manitoba, kind of scattered around the province a little bit. I have a house here in Winnipeg, and I have some land up in Arnis, Manitoba, and been here for quite some time, but was up there for some time too, and split my time between the city and the country and the car. I live in the car a lot. We were talking about clocking our hours as musicians versus drivers, and I think we're probably way more professional drivers than we are professional musicians. It's like next to long haul truckers, I think we probably put on the most asphalt underneath us.
Old friend, you were like the winter. You'd freeze and you'd melt and you'd urge me to shelter.
I think the difficult part for me is just finding the balance of business and creative. And all you can do with the business side is just work as hard as you possibly can, and that's it. The harder you work, and if you're a nice person and people like you and you just do what you can for others, then things will work for you.
Yeah, I'd love to be more of a folk singer who would write songs of just hanging around, on a farm or something and chilling out and really light-hearted stuff like that. I could do it, but when you've got an empty fridge and such a high rent to pay every month, you start. It's sad because it becomes a thing where you start manipulating, or not manipulating necessarily, but just modifying your art slightly so that you're going to be able to hopefully inspire people to give you money so you can make a living. And it's unfortunate because you wouldn't want to have to live that way really for that long. But we've been on this road now for a long time, and I think we're prepared to just keep on doing it, It's expensive world out there, and we just keep on doing it.
Someone will treat me much better. Soon I will float round this town like a feather. And friends, when they see me, will say, now don't she look well? It's a long.
To me, the hardest part about being a musician, I think, is the constant you've always got yourself under scrutination and speculation. You're always looking at yourself, and sometimes it gets exhausting. It's like, why am I so obsessed with myself and what I'm doing? And that feels uncomfortable a lot of the time, especially if you don't like what you see. If you're in a place of not producing anything that you particularly love, then it very quickly turns into, well, I guess it just must be because I'm a piece of shit, or I'm not good at this. I find that hard.
We get to come here with like my best friends and make music. That's awesome, but the hardest part is that it doesn't make you money unless you go about it in a certain way or you get lucky. You have to be very efficient in your way of approaching it, or else you just have to get lucky. Other than that, you don't have a shot at making it.
Like we play all sorts of shows. We play packed bars and dead bars and dive bars, everywhere, festivals, and every once in a while the stars will align and we'll play an amazing festival set, like just the right time and the right mood for the crowd, and it'll just go off, and you could feel the energy that we're giving to the crowd and they're giving it back, and that's kind of a high. That's my favorite part of being a musician, is that connection with the crowd that you can have every once in a while.
Best part of being a musician, well, for more fortunate ones to perform live in front of a crowd that is listening. When people react to the music that I write the way that I have reacted to music.
I love not just getting up and playing for people, but trying to really connect with people, and that's what people want. They just want that connection, They want to be involved, and music is kind of neat that way. I'm not about preaching, and just sort of like what I like to say is that I'm just trying to spread some joy around, because people need that, especially with today's day and age. There's so much crap that goes on in the world, and there's so much devastation. People need a little bit of positivity,
Hope.
Hope. They just need that connection, that human connection,
I love that moment when you're writing and you know the song is a keeper. That moment when a song is really fresh and new and it kind of lives in your heart. Right here, it just kind of lives here. And it's with you. Sort of, it won't go away. You kind of carry it around with you for days. That is a feeling unlike anything I know.
Ah ben là, jouer devant un public, c'est clair que ce qui est le plus plaisant, c'est une fois qu'on a fait la chanson, qu'elle est montée, puis que le travail de mécanique est complété. Là, évidemment, jouer devant des gens, c'est beaucoup plus agréable que... Le travail d'écriture de chansons, des fois c'est le fun, mais en général c'est vraiment du travail puis du creusage de tête, puis des fois pendant une demi-heure t'as plein d'idées, t'écris ça, puis une heure après tu regardes ce que t'as fait, puis t'es là, c'est pas bon, puis là tu scrapes tout ça, puis ça peut jouer beaucoup sur mon moral en fait, puis des fois je me trouve bon, je fais ça, puis là après ça je me relis une heure après, puis là je me trouve vraiment mauvais, puis je suis déprimé, puis tout ça, tandis que, mais quand j'ai fini mon truc, puis que je le trouve suffisamment bon, puis là je le joue devant les gens, puis là je vois que ça marche bien, ben évidemment c'est plaisant, puis qu'il y a un échange avec le public qui est là, qui est toujours agréable, quoi.
The best part about being a musician is trying beers, local beers.
That's a really good part.
And they're free.
Yeah, feeling like a citizen of the world and trying all the foods and the beers and the smells in the air and the sort of the weird free pass you get into these worlds is pretty cool. Like we put out an album and then on the coattails of 10 songs we just fly around the world and meet people, and we're eating beans and rice sometimes and we're eating incredible meals other times, and just it seems to open up meeting people, trying things, experiences, getting into places we've never seen, going to places you never would choose to maybe go visit, and seeing the magic that's there.
Mother, you brought me here. You gave me everything that I hold dear.
When I think about things that have happened in history, and the importance of music in general in history, when I think of folk music, I go, oh well, this is talking about what's going on with that community at that time. So folk music and the traditional folk music, let's say overseas in the UK and Ireland, a lot of the British Isles traditional folk music, the history of the bard going around and sharing the stories of what's happened in one community, or even from an entertainment level, telling stories and keeping people laughing or guessing, but talking about things that are happening at that time. And so when I think about folk music, it's like, oh right, it's just carrying on through the generations. They're writing songs about socialist ideals and things that need to change in society, so they're singing songs about that. And when Vietnam War was happening and the Korean War, those were really things that the entire society, all of society, at least in America and Canada for sure, people were really passionate about that, either pro or against it, and so music played a very important part in expressing those opinions and expressing those views. And as we progress and people are writing songs about whatever, different kinds of experiences, and looking into personal experiences as well, because a lot of songwriters write about their personal lives as opposed to the collective experience. But folk music, because it has that history, that tradition of talking about the community, what's going on in the community, or even your smaller communities, your family, your friends, or things that you're passionate about. That's so important. It's so important to keep those stories alive.
Life is so strange. Oh, it's amazing. I'm half the man of my father. I could never fill his shoes. Oh, but mother, the other half of me is you.
It's universal. You know, there's folk music everywhere. You know, what is folk music to the southern United States is not folk music to, you know, Germany or wherever. Like each region sort of has its own sort of definition of what folk music is and what sort of instruments it's played on. And it just so happens that in North America, folk music largely was played on stringed instruments and on a guitar with somebody telling a story over top of it, you know?
As like a Canadian like myself, who is a big mutt of European heritage, I don't feel like I have a musical identity as a Canadian. Like, we're still such a young culture, and we have Canadian folk traditions for sure, like all these different places like Cape Breton and Quebec, and I have always kind of envied those people that they get to be part of that. And out here in BC, I have no idea. Like, we don't really. There's a BC fiddle tradition, but other than that, we don't have like a grounded folk tradition behind us. And so I think maybe what I am trying to do a little bit, and why I think it's important, is to like draw upon many folk traditions within our culture and outside our culture, and then create our own. You know, I don't know. Maybe our music's too poppy to become something traditional or become something that everyone's gonna know, but I do feel like we are living in a kind of neat time where we get to make up our own cultural folk music, and by writing songs that are like as true to me personally living in this time as I can write, that's sort of my way of contributing to that.
I also think too, it's also it's what we do back home, like square dancing and community events. There is always usually live music and people dancing and coming together, and it's, you know, really important to do that and come out and get together and celebrate, you know, life and being with each other. And the music, when we play it, that's usually what happens. You've got everyone in the community getting together and being happy, and it's a very, very positive thing. And we sort of wanted to carry that torch, because when we were growing up there, that was in our community, so we kind of wanted to do that as well.
And there is murder, and in every woman there's a heart. Like wild, wild roses, growing high upon the mountains. They are the foothills of heaven, they are the summit of the soul. Of a nameless wanderer, blood red yonder, stone blind mercy, lead me home. Well, should known it right from the start.
Je pense qu'à travers ça, la musique folk, ben ça... Oui, ça a sa place, tu sais, puis c'est une musique très naturelle aussi. T'as pas besoin d'amplification. C'est des musiques qui peuvent se jouer dans une cuisine, autour d'une table ou n'importe où dans une pièce. T'as pas besoin d'une infrastructure technique autour de ça. C'est une musique très naturelle, puis je pense qu'il va toujours y avoir de la place pour ce type de musique-là. Tu sais, de la musique qui est très... Qui se fait très naturellement, très acoustique, qu'on peut faire donc comme je disais, dans une pièce, autour d'un feu ou peu importe. Là.
I don't think it's trying to be, when it's at its best, it's not trying to be anything, and it's just trying to get to the root of a melody and lyric without too much interference. And I find that a lot of other, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, there's other music that is more dependent on a beat and a rhythm. And there's others that are entirely dependent on melody because they're instrumental or they're orchestrated in a certain way. But folk music it relies on lyrics. So I find that it's poetic in that sense.
It's no secret, it's all around you when you listen and you learn what's true. What is thunder and why is it loud? How does rain come out of a cloud? It all starts. The creative process is all about vulnerability, and I think we in this life, and certainly in this time and age, are too protected. You know, I mean, there's so much that people, again, put up the walls and try and protect themselves from the insanity that's around them. And it is an insane world. So making yourself vulnerable is a scary concept, because by definition, if you make yourself vulnerable, that means that things can affect you. But the creative process, you need to be vulnerable, so you're at a catch-22 level. But I love music because it allows me to sit and feel, okay, come on, you know, what have you got for me? Planet, people around me, concepts. What is that? And at this point, I don't care anymore. You know, I can be as vulnerable as I want because I'm moving into senior status and I've made my mark in life, and I can just play this to the end. Something we always do when you play, that's a time to learn something new, measuring, building, and figuring out, and discovering what life's about.
Il y a quelque chose de spirituel dans la musique, il y a quelque chose qui rassemble aussi, il y a quelque chose à travers la chanson, il y a beaucoup de médiums artistiques qui sont mélangés. Je pense que c'est une forme d'art comme une autre. C'est une forme d'art noble, mais je sais pas pourquoi j'aime la musique.
These days, life moves on fast, changes day to day, like a needle in a groove. Honey, I can turn it back to you, but never in the same place.
When I was 12 and looking to be good at something, I loved the sound of the electric guitar. I loved AC/DC. I wanted to do that, so I did it 6 hours a day in my bedroom. And then overnight, over 900 nights, I became okay at playing the guitar,
Nothing else makes me feel as good. Nothing else is as good as this. It's just another lens through which to see your life and to see the world. Some people get that from books. You know, you read books and a character reminds you of someone, it gives you insight into that person's feeling or your relationship to them. And music has been the biggest and most solid way for me to do that in my life. I couldn't be without it.
I actually feel more at home and like myself and whole when I'm singing. For me, if I'm proud of a song and I like a song that I've written and I'm singing it, I feel like somehow complete.
By my happiness, oh, but all my love, the honey's part of my soul. But my happiness, yeah, take my love, you fade, honey, twice as fast. Oh, I'm coming counting. Whoa.